Hey, Mr. Kirk. So, real quick, two questions. What would be like the top three most impactful books in your life that you read, or that whether that's Christianity or politics or whatever? And then the second one would be, how would you self-educate yourself? Like, what's the most effective way?
Second question.
How would you self-educate yourself most effectively?
Great. So I'll start with the second question. I try to read 100 books a year. When you don't go to college, you have so much time on your hands. So. And I listen to podcasts all the time. I take learning, I call it going to the intellectual gym, right? The same way that a bodybuilder goes to the gym every day, someone who's in my space has to constantly be consuming content, reading books. I'll give you a couple reads that changed my life. Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis is a game changer. And it's very important to remember when you're reading Mere Christianity, it was originally delivered as radio addresses during the Blitz in London. Anything by C.S. Lewis is amazing. The second book is not a Christian book, but it points to Jesus, which I think is one of the most powerful books of the 20th century, which is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl lost everything in the Holocaust, survived a concentration camp, and he believes that outside of the absolute immediate necessities, food and water, that the number one need of humanity is meaning. It is not sex, it's not power, it's not money, but it's meaning. And I think if you read it now, about 50, 70 years later, now that we're living through a society that has electricity for everybody, Wi-Fi, cell phones, we're wealthy, but we're also suicidal, depressed, anxious, alcohol, and medically addicted. Viktor Frankl's hypothesis 70 years later that he developed in a concentration camp is more true than ever. Where he realized in the concentration camp that the person, even though that they were the sickest person and the weakest person, if they had a reason to survive in the concentration camp, they would. The person that got sick, that gave up hope, would die within 48 hours. Yep. And it's amazing. And then that points to Jesus, because Jesus is ultimate meaning. Just off the top of my head, the third one, which is a unique one, again, I'm just kind of riffing on this, would be the book that built your world, or the book that changed your world, by an Indian author by the name of Vishal Mangalwalde. I know it's like kind of very obscure. He's an amazing guy. I've met him. He makes the argument that we as Christians have no idea how much the Bible and Christian worldview have built America, and that everything we think is common sense is actually Christian sense. From free speech to private property rights to universal human equality to separation of powers to independent judiciary to guilty until proven innocent to giving money to the poor to all these things that we think are normal, actually not normal. Because he says, I grew up in a country that wasn't Christian Indian, and he says, we don't take care of the poor, we have a caste system. It's not normal to say that murder is wrong. We discard babies all the time in India. And he says, from an Indian perspective, you come to America, you realize that the Bible has built this unbelievable society and civilization. So there you go.
Amen. Hey, Charlie. My name is Charles Montana. Thank you. My wife and I...
That's a great name, Charles Montana. You should be like a folk singer or something. Charles Montana. It's like Johnny Cash. Charles Montana. You got a career there. What's your question?
Yeah. My wife and I, we went to this Bible college. Andrew, you've changed our life. Charlie, you have inspired me to do what I can to save this nation. I'm from the beautiful battleground state of Georgia. My wife and I were planning on starting a church there in Georgia, and we have in 2026 a Senate and governor's race, in 28 presidential and Senate race. I wonder if you want to get anything started in Georgia. We're going to be in the Gwinnett County area. I want to work for you. So if there is any way that I can get connected with you, if there's any email address I can reach, I want to work for you.
Yeah. Well, we are hiring, and we are motivated to hire people like you. So if you went to this college, that's what we call a job interview, right? So Mikey can handle that. Let me just speak. I want to encourage you to start the church in Georgia. Because Georgia does not need more churches, it needs better churches.
We are in Georgia, yes.
And there are plenty of churches in Georgia, but boy, the quality of churches has just gone down. I mean, Georgia is like the home of the weak and the cowardly and the trembling that don't speak out. And so there is a population there that is culturally Christian, but they're not being fed a biblical worldview. And that's one of the reasons why Georgia is a perfect example, everybody, of a state that was once reliably Christian conservative Republican that has become a battleground state, and it is solely because of the church. It is exhibit A, numero uno of what happens when the church no longer takes its rightful role as counselor of the king. So we'd love to work with you. Start that church. We'll help any way we can. Thank you.
Good.
Hi, my name is Donna Ryan, and I'm a boomer. Came from Massachusetts, transplanted to California, retired from LA County Sheriff's Department as a law enforcement technician. And I have 4 beautiful granddaughters, one who is very much, she goes to a Christian college, but she very much believes in socialism. Everyone.
What college?
Biola.
Well, that's not a Christian college.
Oh, it's not?
No, they have Ed Stetzer as the head of their theology department. I'm being facetious, meaning like they haven't been Christian in a long time at Biola, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're what we call woke Christian. They've been completely consumed by the woke mind virus. And again, if I'm offending you, excellent.
No.
Because it's.
Yeah. No, I just thought it was.
I
didn't
care.
know.
So
Yes.
Biola's a joke, and it has been for quite some time. I'm sorry.
Maybe, is there another one that begins with a B?
No, you're describing the right college.
Okay. But what books or what can I do to show her that we all don't need a living wage collectively? We need to work for it and earn it. And also with the issue of abortion, we've come a long way since the 60s.
Safe, legal, and rare, right?
Pardon me?
No, I'm sorry. I meant we used to be safe, legal, and rare when it came to abortion.
Well, we had free clinics. They gave out free birth control. They gave out, I was a rape counselor. We had the morning after pill in the 60s and the 70s. Now abortion seems to have taken over what birth control used to do as far as using it yourself, taking care of it yourself. How do I impress on my granddaughters, on the young women around me, that even the young men, that they're going in the wrong direction?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, with the Biola stuff, your granddaughter's a perfect example of the type of sloppy theology that they're teaching. And then she, of course, has a screwed up worldview, right? So that's why I said what I said. Because, for example, at a school like this or a school like Hillsdale, that never would happen, right? Because they actually educate properly. It's going to be tough. What you're pinpointing on the living wage stuff, one of my passion projects is to teach economics to pastors, because I find that economic literacy amongst pastors, would you agree with that, Andrew?
I would.
Yeah, is that supply and demand, inflation, gross domestic product, money velocity, it's just kind of an unknown thing. And I think it's really beautiful. If you think about it, if we believe that God designed the heavens and the earth and everything within, and that God gave us dominion to take this earth for man for his purpose, then we believe that the laws of physics and the laws of mathematics are all meant as the language of the natural world so that we can flourish. And yes, the laws of economics too. And if you look throughout the Bible, by the way, what is storing up for a famine? That is the law of economics, right? It's the law of scarcity at play. So all throughout the Bible, there's some great books on this, so I would encourage with that. But more importantly than ever, how do you impress upon? It's a longer conversation, but you need to get down to morals and worldview. And the most important thing is this, which is what instructs your worldview. If your worldview is not biblical in nature or biblical in root, you're going to get bad politics. You're going to get sloppy morality and sloppy philosophy because of that. So happy to recommend some books, but you are the most important thing. You staying on your granddaughter and making sure that you don't let her go to the dark side. That is your task and that is your purpose. Thank you.
Charlie.
Hey, Charlie, thank you so much for coming out. There's a couple big proposals in the Colorado voting right now that are really hard to see and hurt my heart a lot. One, repealing the definition of marriage, and the second one is codifying abortion in the Colorado Constitution. And the specific one I want to get into is they're trying to make it so that the state taxes can start funding abortion healthcare in the state. So from this point forward, I assume that'll get passed just with how Colorado votes. From this point forward, I mean, hopefully we can get it.
To be honest, he's probably right. So you have to be,
Yeah.
let me ask you a question though. Andrew, what percentage of pastors are speaking out against that amendment, would you say, in this state?
I don't know.
Would you guess? I mean, half?
5%.
Well, then that thing's going to pass. I mean, so don't boo him. Don't say no. If only 5% of pastors are speaking out against taxpayer-funded abortion, you guys got no shot. Right? You got 95% of pastors and churches silent, and you think that something's going to be defeated? But please, yeah, continue.
No, thank you. Good point. And I'm trying to talk to as many people as I can to vote against it. But my moral conundrum is, if I stay in the state past that point, if it gets passed, then my tax dollars will be going to support abortion. And so I'm stuck between voting with my feet and moving to a more conservative state to show that these laws aren't okay, or staying in a state like Colorado and actually fighting against the laws actively. And I'm not sure what would be more effective.
That is a very, very smart question. And I want... So first, from the federal government, the courts have decided that you cannot fund abortion, not the courts, but they find ways around it, but at least employers can't provide abortifacients or abortion-provided services through employer-provided health care. I would struggle. Arizona is on a similar trajectory, unfortunately. We're not having taxpayer-funded abortion, but we have Prop 139 that's going to allow abortion up until the moment of birth for infants. I mean, and it's unfortunately going to pass because we did a poll, only 7% of Arizona pastors are speaking out against it. And I do have to say something though, and I know that this might bother some people, and again, you know me, but Catholics are far more outspoken on this stuff than we are, guys. And my mom was raised Catholic, my wife was raised Catholic, and there's a lot of kind of like anti-Catholic stuff that happens in evangelical circles, and I get it, I understand it to a certain extent, but guys, understand that the Catholic faithful is far more outspokenly pro-life than your average evangelical church. And I think that needs to be repeated and that needs to be internalized. I'll just give my example in Scottsdale and I will get to your question. In Scottsdale, the Archdiocese has said that the Diocese of Scottsdale, Father Klein has said, if you vote for a Democrat this cycle, you are in rebellion of the Catholic Church. Like, do not take communion. Like, that's a big deal, right? Wow. And we don't hear that kind of moral teaching very often. So I personally would struggle to live in a state where my taxpayer-funded dollars went for abortion. I'm not saying for to move. I'm doing this on the fly, though. It would be very difficult for me to work as hard as I work, to pay as much as I pay in taxes, and know that would go towards the slaughter of the unborn. So you make what's right for you. I'm not saying to leave the state. There is an equally as good moral argument to stay and fight, okay? And so I want to make sure you're hearing me correctly, but I would struggle with that. I would. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Thomas Pascal. First of all, it's nice to see you firsthand, Charlie, and to the great pastors and great speakers and the presentation. I would have to say, as an independent radio show host for a decade since Trump declared his running for president, and, to be on the front lines on this and the right side of history, by the way, I got two questions. One of them is, what happens if they don't certify the election? And not only that, how do we stop the steal, especially with everything that's happening in this country right now?
So the first question is a super smart question, and that is not getting enough attention. And I'm intentionally not covering it on my radio program and podcast because it's not relevant yet, and it will be, but we have a whole plan for it. Guys, we have Jamie Raskin saying that if they win the House of Representatives, that they might not certify Donald Trump as the winner. Now, these are the people that attack Donald Trump for even asking questions about the 2020 election. So what's the solution? Guys, we have to keep the House of Representatives for that reason and that reason alone.
Amen.
And you guys have seats here in Colorado that are gonna really matter. And so Colorado might not send its electoral votes for Trump, but it very well might decide whether or not Trump can actually serve as president of the United States. And so you have to win these House of Representative seats. That is such a smart point. Do you guys understand what he's talking about technically here? If you're not, let me just explain it to you. Is that even though if you win the Electoral College meets in mid-December. You guys remember they transmit their votes all the way to Congress. Congress meets on January 6th to go through a performative, quote unquote, ceremonial vote, as they say now. But the House of Representatives can decide not to certify the election, which of course what they attacked us for back in 2020 for asking the questions about the sloppiest, most fraudulent election in American history. And yet, this time, they're saying they won't do it because he's a felon or that all this sort of stuff. And they might do it. These people are not just gonna hand over power back to us and to Donald Trump. So there is a plan. The easiest, quickest plan, we control the House of Representatives. We can do it rather simply. And you guys need every blue state that says that you guys don't have to partake in getting Donald Trump elected. I want this to be clipped up, and every blue state voter in California and New York, vote for your Republican House of Representatives, because you're actually voting it as a proxy for Donald Trump becoming president of the United States.
Amen.
It's incredibly important.
Very good.
To the other part, how you stop the steal, we're not going to completely stop it. We have some better laws thanks to David Barton in certain states. Georgia's cleaned up some stuff. We're too late in the game, honestly, for some of it. We need poll watchers and all that stuff. The most assured way is that we have to overwhelm the system with so many ballots and so many people and do what we did in 2016 and make it too big to rig. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi. My name's Kenzie. I'm 21. I am a first-generation Coloradan, a first-time homebuyer this year, and I just got married 2 months ago. My question for you is, within your family, how do you make conscious, healthy decisions with our food system being as bad as it is? Also, what has to take place in order for America to turn around their overall health issues?
I love this question, by the way, and it's a very important biblical question. And I think one of the sins that the church is most guilty of is sloth, and the inability for us to call out sloth within the church. And I will talk about that. I got one person applauding because it's not a popular thing to say. But let me first say, I love that you got married young. We as Christians are not doing a good enough job of celebrating young marriages. In fact, I see pastors be like, oh, wait till your late 20s or early 30s to get married. I mean, where does this come from, guys? I mean, we need to do a better job of celebrating the covenant of marriage and having children in the church, right? Amen. So I love that you got married. Have Mormon levels of children, okay? So to the point about making healthy decisions, I'm kind of a crazy person when it comes to this stuff, right? I don't eat sugar. I eat very, very few carbohydrates, right? I eat like 5 different things, fast every day. I'm a hawk with this. Obviously, no drugs, no alcohol, none of that stuff. And that's how I'm able to, do 18 hours every day, talk 11 hours a day, travel the country. And the scriptures tell us that your body is a temple. And what you put into your body is actually a form of worship or of desecration to the Lord. And you need to be reminded of that since your body is a temple, if you are putting substances that actively hurt your body but consume your flesh, then you aren't using your body as a way to elevate to the Lord. And so how can we get back to a more healthy track? This is why I'm thanking God that Bobby Kennedy has endorsed Donald Trump and is part of his agenda. I could give an hour-long speech on this. I won't, but I'll just kind of isolate a couple figures that I think are important. Japan has 3% of their 15-year-olds that are chronically obese or overweight. 50% of our 15-year-olds are chronically obese or overweight. 25 years ago, autism was 1 in 10,000 kids. Now it's 1 in 25 kids. Something is happening. And it's the environmental pollutants. It very well might be that ridiculously aggressive childhood vaccination schedule. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your kids, but you got to use some logic and common sense here. If you are just pumping vaccines into a beautiful 6-month-old baby, you guys make your own decisions. That's the end of Charlie Kirk's commentary on that. But I'm a big medical freedom advocate on that. But most importantly, I think it is the food and the food supply. If you just take one example of hundreds, for example, Kellogg's cereal. Kellogg's cereal in America, if you put up Kellogg's cereal versus Canadian cereal, Kellogg's cereal in America is colored with blue dye 22 and xanthan gum and red dye 84, which is illegal and forbidden in Canadian cereal. And these ingredients have been shown to increase likelihood of autism, behavioral disorder issues, attention deficit disorder issues, and yes, obesity. This is so bad, everybody. Let me tell you what the Democrats' plan is for this and what Donald Trump's plan is, which is 2 different things. And I know we're running out of time, but it's so important. The Democrats are about to authorize Ozempic to be used for 13-year-olds on the Medicaid schedule as a way to treat obesity. They don't even want to talk about diet, activity, or nutrition. We are actively poisoning our youth. What Donald Trump will do is he will send Bobby Kennedy in like a heat-seeking missile into the FDA and the CDC, And he will blow up the food pyramid. He will get rid of these people that use this fake science that's saying, oh, actually highly processed foods are good for you, which is a bunch of garbage and nonsense. We will promote from the top down a whole food diet where it's not heavy on rice and grains and potatoes and elevates lean proteins and healthy fats, which literally is what helps create brain material. Raw brain material literally comes from healthy fats. We've demonized fats, even though fats are what's the most necessary thing for you to live. There are 3 types of food: proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Only one of those you do not need, 2 of those you do. Proteins and fats you need to live. You don't need carbohydrates. The one thing you don't need to live is the one that we elevate more than anything else in this country. And so can go on at length, but it's what we as Christians should care about: our neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. And if your neighbor is actively being poisoned by your big corporations, it's time to say no more. Donald Trump will do that with Bobby Kennedy. Another reason to vote for him. Thank you. Sorry, guys.